Hey everybody, hello and welcome to Biters. This is Diane and Mouse.
Oh, and this is Marnell, and I'm rethinking my choice of beverage. Eggnog is probably not the best thing to podcast with.
Why are you drinking eggnog? It's way too early.
No! Like, there was Christmas decorations before Halloween.
Oh,
I
dear
can drink
mother of
eggnog.
God, you're one of those people?
I can drink eggnog in November. But it's probably not the best drink to drink while podcasting, while talking.
Makes you kind of congested.
Yeah.
Things kind of get
too
icky
thick.
and sticky.
Yeah, exactly. I need to thin it out with some more alcohol.
All right, Lilith.
Everything's better with alcohol.
Well, there is some truth to that.
So, tell the listeners who a mouse is.
So Mouse is the tripod dog that I talked about in our last podcast. And she came home on Saturday, and she is staying with us. She is not a foster. She's a foster fail. And she gets so excited when I come home that I actually brought her into the podcast room with me, and she's hanging out in my lap because she's like all of 10 pounds and has 3 legs.
She's so adorable.
She's pretty cute. I'll have to post a picture of her on Biters.
I can't believe she's doing so well with like 10 other dogs in the house. You'd think like this terrified little dog who's been through such a traumatic event would like be like terrified of the entire world and just want to be left alone. But
no, she's doing really good. And when
yeah.
the big dogs get too close, she lets them know. So she's pretty tough.
Good for her.
Yeah. So, but I'm turning into one of those awful little dog people with my fussy little dog sitting in my lap. I brought her bed in with me, but she's just not having any of it.
That's funny.
All right, so we are podcasting Season 10, Episode 5, What It Always Is. So how did you rate it?
You know, this is the second time I've had this rating, and it's my lowest rating of the season. I rated it a 4.3 stolen boats. I really liked it on my first watch. I think it was because I was so excited for the whole Negan storyline. And then on my second watch, I was like, it kind of lost something. I don't know why. It wasn't that amazing. Next episode looks amazing.
So it wasn't my favorite, but I'm still, and Steve has talked about this on Aim for the Head, I am so in the place where I'm like, it's not Fear the Walking Dead, and it's so much better that if this is the worst that The Walking Dead has to offer us, this is pretty good.
Right?
So I gave it a 4.4 melon ripe Walker heads out of 5.
There were some pretty good kills this episode.
Oh my goodness. So definitely both of the kills where Negan was happily smashing Walker heads made me pretty happy.
And all of the ones at the end, those are great.
Yes.
The return of Lucille.
Yes. Which, we'll talk more about Negan.
Oh, definitely.
All right, so the numbers are once again disappointing. The headline on TV by the numbers was NFL leads, The Walking Dead slips again. So The Walking Dead was second on Sunday night to the NFL, and it was 3.086 million views, 1.0 in the 18 to 49 group.
You know, there's a Entertainment Weekly article that talked about the how the Walking Dead is having a creative renaissance, and they were talking about how low the ratings are compared to season 1 and season 5 and everything. And it lists all the cool stuff that if you are not watching The Walking Dead anymore, you are missing out, because it is so amazing. Like, and they credit Angela Kang for it. But yeah, there's a really good article on Entertainment Weekly, so go check that out.
I am so glad you looked at that article because I kind of skimmed past it while I was looking at the news tonight, and I was wondering what they had to say.
Oh yeah, and like reason number one was the villains, and I can't agree more.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, I've got to ask you, because I watched it twice, and I actually watched it with closed captioning on the second time, and I still missed it. Where did the title come from?
I missed it too, apparently. I was going to ask you.
I even Googled it to see if I could figure it out that way.
Huh. So, is it referring to kind of the old Negan coming back? It is what it always is?
Maybe. I just kind of wonder if there was a line that I missed again.
Yeah, I didn't catch it either.
All right, listeners, hit us up. Tell us what we're missing. Tell us where the title came from.
Yeah, what it always is.
Yeah. All right. So, our writer was a first-time writer on The Walking Dead. So, Eli Jorne, Jorne.
I would say Jorn.
I saw that, but then I saw a listing with an accent over the E. So I think it might be Jorne, but I'm not sure.
Ah, okay.
So Eli has been a co-executive producer on other Walking Dead episodes, but this was the first writer's effort in the franchise. He had, I'm assuming it's a man, had several other writer's credits, but nothing that I really recognized.
Okay, so there was a kind of, I want to say it was short-lived show called Wilfred, and it starred Elijah Wood.
Oh,
and
okay.
I never actually watched it, but the premise is kind of this guy is the only person who sees his neighbor's dog as a human guy in a dog suit, and he talks to it and it talks back and everything. And of course the human in the dog suit is super cheeky and, just...
I'm totally having visions of God and Preacher.
Not quite like that. You know who Jim Jeffries is?
He's a comedian, right?
Yeah, I think Jim Jeffries in a Snuggie.
Ugh.
Yeah. So
okay, no wonder it was short-lived.
Well, it seemed really funny, but one of the things is Elijah Wood's character was, I don't know if he was a manic depressive or and it's something like that, but like he kind of seemed super downerish on his part, and I couldn't get into it. I just was not in a place. I'm still not in a place where I want to watch a depressed person talk to a dog.
No, because you could do that at home if you wanted to.
I was like, I do that every day. So.
Well, I will say that on Eli's writing credits, there was a short, which actually was his first effort, called The Trial of Han Solo. And I looked it up, and it looks like it actually is putting Han Solo on trial for the murder of Greedo. So I was really interested in that. I didn't seek it out to see if it was available for viewing anywhere, but I will admit that I was really curious about that.
So that is so funny, because I just had a friend text me tonight, and he's like, no Googling it. Why was Princess Leia a princess?
I can't answer that.
Brian?
Brian?
Her mother was Queen Amidala, but Queen Amidala was a senator, so Queen is an elected position. So he started this whole conversation about Star Wars, and I have never heard of the Trial of Han Solo. I'm going to have to find it, and I'm also very, very curious if, how that all works out as far as, licensing and stuff, because Star Wars is pretty tight on their use of
So
characters.
it's like a 20-minute short, and it looks like it actually got a mention in a documentary that was called like The People versus oh my god, George who? George, help me out here.
George Lucas.
Thank you. People versus George Lucas. It actually was featured in that documentary. So I don't know. I'm not sure how it got approved. Not sure how they managed to dance around the licensing issues.
I'm going to have to find this at least for my friend.
Okay, so you're totally going to have to let us know if you find it and watch it.
Yeah, I will post it to the Biter site if I find a place to watch it.
Very cool. All right, so our director we have talked about before. Her name is Laura Belzy, and she has written one time for Walking Dead previously. She wrote The Calm Before, which I believe was the Pike episode.
Was it?
So, because it was The Calm Before and then The Storm.
The Storm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, and we know her because she wrote 2 episodes of Preacher.
Ah.
And she has also written for dun 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 Law and Order SVU. Sorry, directed. So she directed The Calm Before. She directed Preacher episodes. She directed Law and Order. I am misspeaking. Because I'm still working on adjusting to the new job and 410s instead of 5/8s. So I'm a little bit fried. A little crispy around the edges.
And an 11th dog.
And an 11th dog, yes. Because I'm crazy.
Crazy dog lady.
Actually, I told my husband that I gave up my goats, I gave up my horses, I deserve this dog. Which is crazy.
Oh, awesome reasoning, though.
Yeah.
You missed your calling. You should have been a lawyer.
Or a negotiator. Excel in debate in high school. All right, so I kind of randomly threw out who our featured cast should be and then really did a lousy job researching him.
So, okay, there really is no researching him. Of course, you know, we always try to do the character that dies in the episode because we're probably not going to see them again. So this time we did Brandon Rose, who was the psycho who freed Negan. But there really is not a lot out there.
Actually, he didn't free Negan. So in the comic book, yes, he freed Negan, but in this, he made a comment to Negan about, you're still not going to tell me who let you out?
Oh, I didn't catch that. Okay. So we're talking about Blaine Kern III. And there is really not that much on IMDb. There is not that much on the internet. He has an Instagram, Blaine Kern III on Instagram, that only has 23 posts. So there's not a lot out there by this guy, but I do have to say he is in one of my favorite modern horror movies.
Oh my god, Happy Death Day.
Happy Death Day.
I haven't watched it, but I completely thought of you when I saw it in his credits.
Yes. Okay, so I love horror movies. They are movies I will go to the theater and pay $20 or whatever it is to get into. I am not a rom-com kind of girl. I love horror movies. So all of my friends, we all got together, and all of our respective spouses and other halves were actually, all of them were on travel. And so a group of us, we called ourselves the Left Behind Widows or something like that. We all got together and we went and saw Happy Death Day. And so one of them moved out of town, and she just so happened to come back when Happy Death Day 2 was on, so we all went to the theater and saw it again. And
sorry, that's Happy Death Day to you.
To you, yes. Yes, it is the sequel to Happy Death Day. And they're super, super clever movies. And Blaine actually has a huge part. He's basically the boyfriend in the show, in the movie. And so I don't know why there's not more out there, because this guy, I mean, he's been in two, I think, fairly large movies, and his very, very first acting credit was for the movie The Big Short. And that was...
I have to tell you, I still haven't watched that, and I heard it was so good, and I still have the book on my Kindle, and I still haven't read the book.
I have actually not watched it either because I am not a huge, like, sports ball movie, but...
It's not about sports.
I know. So this is what I did. I did the same thing with Blindside. I waited like 7 years to watch Blindside. Movie. And like every time Blindside's on, I have to watch it. I love that movie. So I'm doing the same thing with The Big Short. But I mean, Blaine Kern has been in a movie with Ryan Gosling and Brad Pitt and Christian Bale. And there's really just not that much out there as far as like his date of birth, who he's dating. Like he just, he's a very closed book. But he's got quite a number of credits to his name. And he's got, let's see, a short, a TV movie documentary, and then 2 things that aren't classified coming up in post-production. So, I mean, he's not hurting for work. And
he's really young. I mean, he looks like he's just... I didn't see his age. You're right. It's not listed, but he looks like he's just a kid.
Yeah, so. I would say probably mid-20s. And I also have to say that, like, seeing him as Brandon in in Walking Dead, I absolutely did not recognize him from Happy Death Day. So... He played psychopath really well.
Which, by the way, he was actually in 2 other episodes. He was in Silence the Whisperers, and he was in Lines We Cross.
Yeah, I think he, like, you know, just...
We probably just saw him in the background. Yeah.
Background Alexandrian. Yeah. But, I mean, he's named, and of course, he kind of alludes to what I believe is the... kind of the character in the book that I freed Negan, because he was the son of saviors that Rick killed, and that's why he hates Alexandria, and he was on Negan's team, and yeah.
He is a pathological little dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Crazy. Yeah. But so it's not totally that you didn't do your due diligence. It's really, really, there's not a lot out there from Blaine Kern the third, which that makes me super curious. Like,
what about Blaine Kern the first and second?
Yeah. So dude needs to fill out his bio on IMDb or like update his wiki or something.
Or come talk to the Biters.
Which,
by the way, I just still can't get over how amazing Emma Bell is. She was so great.
She is, and I am happy to announce that they passed the 80% threshold of now they get to keep the money that was pledged.
I saw your post. They're at 90%, right?
They are at 90% tonight. They have 17 hours left. Unfortunately, this episode will probably not be posted in time to hear this and donate, so I posted on the Biters page that... They just need that last $4,700 to get to 100% funded, and that would be absolutely amazing if they could do that. So I hope everyone sees it and either shares it, likes, donates, comments, whatever, anything to get the word out.
I quite agree.
Yeah. She gave us the best shout out on Instagram, too.
She did. She was so great. Well, so I do have some stuff for Whisperer's Corner, but as I've kind of taken to doing, I want to talk a little bit about a podcast that I've been listening to before we launch into Whisperer's Corner. So I have started listening to a podcast called Angry Americans. It's hosted by a guy named Paul Rykoff, who I've seen several times on various news outlets. He founded a group for returning veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan, and he served in Iraq.
Okay, that sounds a little better. I'm like, Angry Americans sounds like a really healthy podcast to be listening to, Diane.
No, it's phenomenal. His interviewing skills are so top-notch. He is so good. And the diversity of the people that he is interviewing is fascinating. Like, I listened to the first one, which came out, the first one that I listened to was the latest one, which came out on Halloween. And he interviewed a guy named James Laporta, who is a journalist, who actually, before he started his journalism career, served in Iraq. Fascinating interview. So I went back and started to kind of do a deep dive into some of the older episodes. There's like 31 episodes out. And he interviewed a guy named Scott Campbell, who is a world famous tattoo artist. Fascinating. He interviewed Malcolm Vance, who was a CIA analyst and is just a fascinating guy who really understands kind of the whole deep state security structure.
Interesting.
I started listening to his interview with Tulsi Gabbard because I've been very curious about her. He's fascinating. He says that he is a political independent. I will tell people he leans a little bit to the left, but he's really interesting. And he's got some neat traditions. So he always gives gifts to his guests. And one of the gifts is an American-made alcohol of some sort.
Oh, I can get on board with that.
Right? I need to go back and start taking notes of the different whiskeys that he's giving out because they all sound really interesting. And this is really cool. So go to www.oscarmike.org. It's a veteran-owned business. They make their products in America, and they do swag for the Angry Americans podcast. So you can get a t-shirt if you turn out to like it and listen to it and like it.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that because I think it's really cool to highlight other podcasts.
I should get you to start listening to Ear Hustle.
That's on my phone and it's on my list. I just have not listened to it. But it's produced by inmates at what prison? San Quentin?
San Quentin.
Yeah. So it's actually an inmate-produced podcast. I heard about it and was really interested, and I just haven't listened to it.
Right. It's really eye-opening, and it really makes you think about our system and biases in the system, and just it makes you rethink. Like one of the hosts, he's actually, spoiler alert, but if you see him on social media at all, you'll know he actually has since been released since he started the podcast. And he was sentenced to 25 to life for attempted third-degree robbery or theft or something like that.
Oh, so it must have been a 3 strikes you're out kind of deal, or?
I don't think so. I think he really just got railroaded as a young man, and so his sentence was actually is it commuted, where they you've served plenty of time, you're released, and I think he's on probation or parole or something for 6 years or something like that, and it's just, and some of the other inmates that talk about their time, there is one who got sentenced on a 3-strike rule, and it's just these guys are yeah, I was a stupid kid in my early 20s, and I'm not that person anymore, and I would give anything to just have a family and a life and be a productive member of society. And so it's just Ear Hustle. It's a really good podcast. I enjoy it.
Cool. Well, I will have to make a point of checking that out then.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we talked about this a little bit last week, and I just wanted to follow up on it. We did talk about James Frazier stepping down from Walker Stalker Con.
We did, yes.
And at the time of recording last week, there was an interim CEO. His name was Michael DeVault. He has since stepped down.
Ooh.
So, the last I heard, it was really up in the air. I just went on tonight and I kind of clicked on their website to see, because we talked to them last time. It was like, we're restructuring, please come back. It does look like they're selling tickets. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but still just kind of a trip.
Yeah. That's kind of disappointing.
And it does look like they're selling tickets for the Fan Fest in Chicago, which you and I were kind of talking about doing. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And there's no statement on their website about kind of how they're moving forward. So, definitely if anybody hears anything or if anybody has any insight into what's going on, let us know.
Well, I mean, I guess you don't always need a CEO to run things for at least an interim. Maybe the people who work behind the scenes are just doing what they're doing so that the fans can have their con.
But you got to have money to pay for the con and to pay the actors and to pay the vendors. And
which is why they're selling tickets now.
Right.
Oh. Did you ever watch the Netflix one and the Hulu one about the Fire Festival?
No.
Oh, you need to watch both of them. It's basically this guy tried to make kind of a Coachella type music getaway on Pablo Escobar's island, and it just turns into this. Nobody died. Okay, just when you're watching it, nobody died.
That's always good.
No matter how horrific these spoiled rich millennials make it sound, nobody died. Somebody peed on a tent and you got a cheese sandwich. Nobody died. But, they built, and he didn't intentionally do it. He had all this good intention of he wanted to have this Caribbean Coachella, and it was going to be for all of the biggest Instagram stars and all this kind of stuff. And it fell apart because these things are really, really hard to manage and put together and keep going. And, it's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of money. So I can't really fault anybody for not for falling down after so many years of doing it, because it brings you out, and then somebody else coming on board and 1 week later going, nope, this is not for me. So I have sympathy, but I also have sympathy for fans that paid a lot of money for something they were very dissatisfied with, or the stars who didn't get paid a lot of money for something they were really dissatisfied with.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how all of that evolves.
Yeah, it definitely, keep an eye on it.
So I have some good news on the franchise front, though. So good. Nick and Norman's is expanding. So Greg Nicotero and Norman Reedus have their restaurant in downtown Sonoy that has been really popular, Nick and Norman's, and they are actually expanding to Chattanooga. They're going to open their second franchise this spring.
Your franchise!
And they're hoping to open more.
That's cool.
So I thought that was neat. Also, not so much in franchise news, but just in interesting links news. Did you see the news about Emily Kinney?
I did.
So, for people who don't know, and I didn't know this, the song that Magna is playing on the gramophone when she's kind of tuning out Yumiko is actually a new Emily Kinney song.
Yes. What's it called?
It's called The Turtle and the Monkey. Which I totally have to get on it and check that out, because I'm a little bit behind in keeping up with Emily Kinney.
So she's got a new album coming out, I take it.
Let me look real quick, because I didn't look at that. But, so here's the other thing. There is speculation that the male voice that performed it was actually Ryan Hurst.
Right. And so that could be why he hides his face, is because he's a famous country singer.
So The Turtle and the Monkey is a new single that dropped on Halloween. So I'm going to add it to my library and check it out.
If that, it did sound like Ryan Hurst, and if that really is him singing, he's got a really good voice.
Well, and it was, I mean, did you listen to the lyrics? It was a perfect breakup song.
Oh, no, I didn't.
It's a perfect breakup song. It was very appropriately chosen. So
we'll get into their breakup.
Let's see. Glenn Mazzara, showrunner from season 2, has been involved in a campaign called Pay Up Hollywood, hashtag Pay Up Hollywood. And he came out in an interview this week talking about supporting underpaid showrunners' assistants.
I didn't know that was an issue.
I didn't either, but apparently it is. So you can check out the hashtag Pay Up Hollywood. Let's see. There was a really cool interview with Bear McCreary on metro.co.uk. And the thing that I thought was really neat was that he revealed that Carl is actually the only Walking Dead character who got his own piece of theme music.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So now I'm going to have to go back and watch some early episodes, and it sounds like it really kind of started in season 2 and evolved in season 2, that there was a particular strain of music that was associated just with Carl.
Huh. I've never noticed that.
Me either.
I wonder why that is.
He said because he felt like Carl's character was really unique. And he felt like he really made a transition from being innocent and vulnerable to being really strong.
So, I kind of wonder now if maybe that'll somehow translate to Judith.
I don't know. We'll have to watch for that.
I mean, if they're going to start it at any time for Judith, it would be when Michonne leaves. And Judith is kind of, I want to say, truly on her own. I mean, I'm sure there will be somebody there to raise her and RJ, but like her moms and dad, will have all gone. So, and I think Chandler Riggs has said this, that, he expects Judith to take over his storyline from the comic books, which I think we've all talked about ad nauseum. So maybe there's a catalyst for her to start picking up that music. I think that would be a cool little inside joke.
Yeah. Yeah, I like even better the idea of her getting Carl's theme versus her getting a theme of her own.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I just have a brief summary of Eric Kane and Paul Tassie's articles. So Paul Tassie did not like this episode. He said that was Walking Dead's first bad episode in a while. But he still also says that if this is as bad as it gets, this is pretty darn good.
Amen, brother.
And then Eric Kane felt like it was a slow burn, but it delivered.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I kind of agree with that. Like, for me, it was a slow burnout, but I still really, really enjoyed it.
I'm sorry that you didn't like it that much. I mostly liked it. There was some stuff I didn't like, but I mostly liked it.
I felt like it was a filler episode, kind of like we were trying to get from point A to point B, and point A being Negan's escaped, and point B, he's with the Whisperers. So, it wasn't terrible.
We'll talk about it. And with that, unless you have something for Whisperer's Corner, let's get into our goods, bads, and uglies.
Do we need to do a corrections corner first?
Oh, yeah, you need to do a corrections corner. Thank you, Steve.
So, Steve Baldwin pointed out...
that would be Steve of Aim for the Head.
that on one of our episodes when we were talking about origin stories, and I think we got on the topic because we were talking about how the third series in the Walking Dead universe is not going to be an origin story. We're picking up 10 years into the apocalypse. And I had mentioned that there was something Kevin Smith had said a long time ago that was like, we are done with redoing the origin stories. We know that Spider-Man got bitten by a radioactive spider. And apparently I said Batman instead of Spider-Man. So my apologies to Marvel and DC. Spider-Man, Batman, all the mans, Steve the Man. I think I actually know where I got it twisted in my head. It's because Kevin Smith is now doing, he has a big role to play in the Batman movies. So I got it twisted in my head, and no, Batman's origin story was not him being bitten by a radioactive spider. That would be quite a twist on revamping an origin story.
And I will admit that I kind of noticed it, but I decided I wasn't going to be god awful and correct you. So my bad too for not saying something when we were talking about it.
But this is me owning my mistake. I will fully admit I don't remember doing it. I did not go back and listen. So maybe this is just me pleading no contest.
Hashtag pay up, Marnell.
I'm sure the evidence is there, but I do not believe in my own guilt. So there you go.
All right. Corrections Corner, peace out. So tell me you're good.
How could my good not be anything but Negan this episode? And the one that really, really hit me is the scene between Negan and Brandon when Brandon's fanboying out and he's like, yeah, and you shot Carl and blah, blah, blah. And Negan just like stops dead. And he's like, first of all, I would never hurt a kid. And I did not do that to Carl. And like instantly you're like, huh, Brandon's dead. You know, I loved that scene where it was just like, I mean, he was already kind of annoyed with Brandon in the beginning when he was, you know, standing in the water and Brandon kind of finds him.
That face was awesome.
Yeah.
The look that he gives Brandon was just awesome. It was totally like, huh, you really are an idiot. What am I going to do with you?
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, he started off on the wrong foot already, and he just kept drilling into it, you know, and I did not expect Negan's reaction when Brandon pulled out the Lucille and the leather jacket. And I think on Talking Dead, somebody said it was like a recovering alcoholic being offered a drink.
Yes.
And yeah, I once they said that, I totally get it. But then at the end, he takes it. So I don't know what to think of that. Because their whole thing in the beginning was they didn't want to cross over into the Whisperers territory. Like, Negan took one look at that and he's like, no. And then at the end, he strolls right in and he's singing and swinging his bat. And so something flipped when Brandon killed the mother and son. And I'm not quite sure what to expect. I still want good Negan. You know, he's done some terrible things, but like Magnus said, we've all killed, you know, like nobody's innocent at this point. So yeah, he's done terrible things and he did them for bad reasons, but I kind of want to hope he's reformed. So
that actually brings up two things. First of all, your good was my ugly, and I'll get into that in just a second. But one of the other things that I neglected to mention in Whisperer's Corner is that AMC actually did an informal poll about Negan, and 65% of the people who responded said that they have actually forgiven Negan to the point where they're rooting for him. So you're not the only one.
But we still have to have, and I'm confident that this will happen. We still have to have him come face to face with Maggie and be good Negan. Like, I don't know how that's going to work out.
So I don't know if their paths are going to cross. It depends on whether they continue to take him down the path of the comic books.
Okay. Mm-hmm. He just better not be the one to take out Alpha. That's Carol's job.
I think she would fight him for it.
And I think Daryl needs to take out Beta.
I don't know how the Beta Negan matchup is going to go. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's definitely some fertile ground there.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so it was my ugly for similar reasons, but I wrote in my notes, Negan is having to confront Negan. So Brandon is holding up a mirror to him, and the reflection is really ugly.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, so his reaction and the way that he was processing, and especially Jeffrey Dean Morgan's way of handling it, his way of processing just how ugly that reflection was the reason that I rated this episode as high as I did. For me, it was really the meat and potatoes of this episode.
There was definitely, I mean, anytime Brandon fanboyed or made reference to anything, like Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Negan was like, it was like you could see like him internally recoiling from that. Yeah.
Yeah, and JDM played it really, really well.
Yeah, as always.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome.
So what was your good? We skipped your good.
We skipped my good last time, so I won't. Or the last time you had your good and my ugly be the same thing. So this time I won't skip. Can I have a bad good? Because it's kind of bad, but it was really good. I am heartbroken about Ezekiel.
Okay, how is that good at all?
It's good because I like the way that it pointed out a really harsh reality.
Yeah.
Which is that people are going to die of things that we were
98%
once able to...
survivable.
Right, things that we were once able to treat, but we can't treat in an apocalypse because all of the structures that we've become so used to are gone.
Yeah, medications, treatments, surgery. And we can't do any of that kind of stuff.
In this series, we've had a lot of medical miracles.
Yeah.
That were kind of not realistic. Carl's gunshots, Herschel's leg, Aaron's hand.
Enid sewing up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
really feel like this is really kind of finally looking at that harsh reality of not having a medical infrastructure anymore. And by the way, if Mouse had been male, I would have named her Herschel.
Because of her little peg leg.
Yes.
That's funny. You know, I thought about that too. So my first instinct was, I can't believe they're going to do the king dirty like that. Like, that is no way for the king to go out.
It's heartbreaking. And the fact that Siddiq kind of put him on the spot and put him on the radio, and then he couldn't say anything to Carol.
Yeah.
That was horrible too.
So the other part of me got to me and was like what you were saying, that this is the real world now. I mean, people are going to die people die of the common cold as it is, but you're going to have people die of...
I have a friend who just lost her middle-aged husband, relatively healthy middle-aged husband, to the flu.
Wow.
People die of freaky things, even with our modern medical infrastructure.
Yeah.
So in the ZA, yeah.
And what's even more terrifying is people dying of like strokes and heart attacks and pulmonary embolisms and things like that, they reanimate and then they terrorize the town.
Right. Because you're not necessarily going to catch the dude who dies in his space of a heart attack until he's turned. And yeah. Kind of like the kid back in season 4 who had the flu and died and then reanimated and created a whole bunch more zombies in the prison.
Yep.
Yeah, so I just, it was heartbreaking. I hate that we're going to lose Ezekiel. We're obviously going to lose Ezekiel, but I liked that piece of realism.
Yeah. When I went back and rethought about it, I came to the same conclusion that I appreciate the realism more than I'm sad about the way he's going to die and that he is going to die. I mean,
good Lord, that tumor is massive.
Yeah. I don't think Siddiq is going to pull off a miracle.
Let's put it this way. If he does, I will be disappointed that they didn't hold to a more realistic thread.
So was it on top
in a series about a zombie apocalypse?
Right. Was it on Talking Dead? Did somebody mention that, hey, maybe he can go to the Commonwealth and they can just zap it with some radiation and he'll be fine?
I don't remember anybody saying that, but...
Okay.
But I will admit that I don't often watch Talking Dead as closely as I should. I kind of half pay attention to it while I'm starting to do chores and putter around after watching Walking.
Yeah, I try and pay close attention to at least because I rewatch it. When I rewatch the show, I rewatch Talking Dead because I've only half paid attention to it the first time. And I really liked the guests this season. So
this episode, you mean?
No, like this entire season, that everyone that they've had on the couch, they just had the stars have so much insight on their character and why their character did that thing, or why they're acting like that, or that thing that they said, or so I'm really interested to hear about that because Thora Birch, Gamma, had a lot of really good insight about her character and her character's state of mind and everything, and so I like to hear all that.
All right, so what was your bad?
Was this my bad last episode?
I think we have the same bad.
What the F is going on with Magna? What is her problem?
Yeah, so what I wrote down is I'm really dissatisfied with the Yumiko Magna stuff.
So if any of you listen to our belated Preacher podcast, we have a thing about when the two main characters are fighting. I'm always like, Mom and Dad are fighting again, and I hate it. Well, Mom and Mom are fighting again, and I hate it. So
I appreciated the reveals. So we find out more. They've been together for 13 years. Magna really did kill the person who hurt her cousin and lied to Yumiko about it. But we also see a breakup. I mean, Yumiko essentially says, get out of the bedroom, find somewhere else to sleep.
Right. And Yumiko didn't know about Magna and Connie.
Magna and Kelly.
Not Kelly. Making a stash of supplies. And yeah, there's just, I don't know what has turned in Magna that she's so bitter towards Connie or Yumiko. Like, so what did we miss? What is going on?
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, the thing that I will say is that I would be more on board with this if they had given us a convincing progression.
Right.
If we had a sense of where things went wrong. I mean, even it was either Paul Tassi or Eric Kane, one of the reviewers, who pointed out, at the beginning of the last episode, we had this beautiful lovemaking scene between the two of them, and now all of a sudden they're having this horrible breakup. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, our bads are the same. I am really not on board, and I'm really disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think was Magna was super butthurt that Yumiko pulled her out of the fight when they were protecting the wall from the walkers. But that that wouldn't tick you off to this level, that you are aggressively ignoring your partner when they're trying to talk to you, and just so confrontational about, yeah.
And really sullen and not pleasant with anybody.
No, she's really soured on everybody and everything. I kind of want to think that the supplies that they were stocking up weren't for the just in case Hilltop collapse. It's, yeah, when I want to jet because I'm, bugged by everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I don't know. I'm not happy with it either, and I hope that we get a better explanation, because I think this is the only thing that I have really felt since Angela Kang has taken over that was kind of ham-handed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, after 13 years, yeah, there was a big inequity in their power dynamic in the beginning. I mean, Yumiko was, a lawyer in her business suits, and Magna had to point that out. And, Magna was in jail and, convict and everything. And so there was a big imbalance of power in the relationship. But you have been together in the zombie apocalypse for 13 years. None of that matters anymore, if it ever did. Like, there is a whole other host of things that, you have built your relationship on over 13 years that you should not be acting like this for no reason.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Nope. So it was my bad.
And mine. And
Good.
You've already got my ugly, so now you have to tell us your ugly.
My ugly, and I don't know why I did this, the stolen supply stash. I know why I did it. So if it truly was like their bug out plan, their just in case, I kind of don't blame them. This is a group that's, it's had Luke and Yumiko and Magna and I'm missing somebody, Connie and Kelly. And they've kind of survived with each other and everything. And it, Kingdom collapsed, and, the trees now come through the fence at Hilltop, and we're getting bombarded by waves of walkers, and they've lost some of their people in the infrastructure, whether it's their heads were on spikes or they're depressed because their kids' heads were on spikes. So things do seem to be eroding, and I kind of really don't blame them if they had a just in case. They weren't taking everything. They weren't going in and cleaning out the medicine cabinets and taking all the food and things like that. It was just something that they could easily slip away into the night and carry with them, So I'm part of this, I think it was 62% on the show, that I don't blame them for having a backup plan.
I'm not sure how I feel about it. I don't have strong feelings one way or another. It's just more tied up in being disappointed in the way that Magna and Yumiko is being handled. Yeah.
And so this is getting into rotting potpourri now.
Yeah, I think we're deeply in rotting potpourri at this point.
Why did Kelly go off on her own?
Yeah, I don't have a good explanation for that either. And that was pointed out, I think, in Paul Tassie's article, where he's like, I just think that sending someone who is severely hearing impaired and getting worse out alone in the ZA, probably not a great plan. I
don't think very many people should be alone. Daryl is the exception to that rule. I mean, Daryl can go off on his own and survive just fine. But any of the other combinations, I don't think Aaron should be out on his own. I wouldn't want Alden walking around hunting boar by himself. Double up, just go out in pairs. and in fact, don't go out in odd numbers. Like if there's 3 of you, get a 4th, because you don't want to like either have to send somebody ahead or leave one behind, or you always want it's the buddy system. Just use the buddy system. You know, it didn't even have anything to do about her hearing impairment, which just added on top of that. But yeah. I don't think Kelly should have been going anywhere alone. And for a second there, I was like, oh, was she going to add something to the stash? Or, you know, was she going to check on the stash and she didn't want to have anybody with her? You know, so I don't know. Don't go off alone in the zombie apocalypse, especially when your ears are ringing that badly.
I will have to say, though, my little caveat about that is that the scene where the walker, and then I guess it was actually a whisperer and I didn't catch it, like reached out and kind of caressed her head.
I did not catch that was a whisperer.
Yeah, I read somewhere that it was a whisperer.
Oh.
But it was freaky, and I definitely was concerned that we potentially saw the last of Kelly.
Yeah, I would not have been surprised if that would have been her last episode. I'm very glad that it's not, but it would not have surprised me. Yeah.
I think it was Tom who was saying there's going to be lots of death this season.
Well, they're kind of starting to point in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And speaking of Kelly's hearing impairment, the ringing sound, that high-pitched noise that they make whenever they're trying to demonstrate that in people, gets me every time, because I actually have an issue with ringing in my ears. I've noticed it if I've come home from a high-stress day at work, so I think it has something to do with blood pressure. Because it does go away once I calm down. But like when I come home from my crazy busy job and like my house is quiet because I don't have any kids, I like it, the ringing in my ears is just deafening. And it kind of like, it freaks me out a little, because the one sense that I don't want to lose is my hearing, because I would miss music. I could be blind. There are plenty of books on Braille. You know, I could lose my sense of smell. I could lose my sense of taste. You know, I don't care any about that. But, like, hearing, yeah.
I'm a none of the above girl. I like all of my senses. I would be miserable if I couldn't see. I'd be miserable if I couldn't hear. I'd probably be better off if I lost my sense of smell, because I would have less of an appetite. But
yeah, exactly. And like, I kind of feel like sense of smell and sense of taste kind of go hand in hand. So either one of those would be fine, because I'm already a textural eater. I don't like cottage cheese type things. Tapioca pudding, bubble tea gives me anxiety. Like,
that's funny.
I'm a textural eater already, so like taking away, like, you know, I wouldn't be craving the 2 giant bags of candy that are sitting on my coffee table right now.
# no more Halloween. I'm bummed out that kids can't go out and get giant pillowcases full of candy like they did when I was a kid.
They do in some places,
yeah,
but
it's pretty rare these days.
Yeah.
All right. I will say that hearing Brandon whistle really got me.
Yeah.
Like that.
For a second there, I thought it was Negan.
Yeah.
God. I was surprised and, of course, upset that he killed the mom and boy.
You know, I didn't see it coming either, and I probably should have, but I totally didn't see it, and it was awful.
And then when he was like, it was a test, and I passed the test, I am Negan, you know, I was just like, oh, you're so deluded. Like, do you not know when somebody is legitimately irritated with you? Like, this isn't a test. Ugh.
I'm looking at my notes. I kind of had mixed feelings about the interplay between Connie and Daryl when Daryl was telling the story about Merle. I mean, it was kind of funny and it humanized Daryl a little bit more, but it also was like, okay, I feel like we're really reaching for a way to make these characters connect. This feels a little forced.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be a better moral to the story
Right.
as far as like,
Other than go back and get the beer, you dummy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was like, I saved my brother, you'll save Kelly, it'll be fine. Yeah. But I do love their little interactions. Even later when he was leaving and she was talking to him, it just he seems to be the one to be making the most effort at learning sign language, and it's really opened him up. I mean, there was a joke 1 or 2 seasons ago where we were like, I think they're paying Norman Reedus by the word, because like he's had 2 lines in
they're not
8
letting
episodes.
him speak at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now he's having full-on conversations with someone who can't hear.
I will say they're definitely telegraphing the shipping big time, because even Nick was like, are they going to get together? and if he's keyed into it, then it's really being telegraphed.
And I know it feels like we ship Daryl with every age-appropriate female out there.
Because we pretty much do.
We pretty much do. Like, but these 2 just seem especially sweet. So, I'm all for it.
The scene on the bus where they're first like coming onto the bus and Negan finds the woman and like saves them from the walker, it was totally a shout out for me back to the RV walker in season 2, episode 1.
Oh, yeah.
It really had that feel.
Yeah. So what do you think was the exact moment old Negan popped out? Like, do you think it was when he saw the dead mother and son, or when he killed Brandon? Which do you think made it click?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I mean, I think that he kept getting glimpses of himself all along, but I'm going to go with when he smashed Brandon's head in with that rock.
Yeah.
I think that was finally when Negan emerged.
Yeah, that bludgeoning over and over.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, he really, really flipped that switch and turned old Negan back on. Because, like I said, in the beginning, he didn't want to cross the border into the Whisperers. And suddenly, he has it in his head that he's going to seek out the Whisperers. So, something clicked in his head, whether, his Negan brain fired up and he's got a plan, or his Negan brain fired up and he just wants to smash stuff.
Like I said, the Negan stuff was totally the best part of the episode for me.
Yeah.
And when he said people are a resource, I was like, yes!
Yeah, that peaked out. Although I do have to say that the discussion about the nut tapping game
was bizarre. I actually looked at my husband and I said, is that a thing?
It is. I have seen it.
Yeah, so he said it was a thing when he worked at the prison. Like, all the guards would do that to each other.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I don't know what sort of fascination men have with their own and other men's genitalia that, like, makes them want to briefly tap them. Like,
well, I will tell you,
I don't get it.
When I asked my husband if that was a thing, he said the funniest thing. He was like, I got to the point where I just wasn't playing that game with anybody, and if someone started out with me, I would reach out and grab their junk.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, girls don't do this kind of stuff.
No.
at all. Like, it's not like we like give each other purple nurples or snap each other's bra strap. That's you boys doing that to us. Like, we're not into that. That conversation just went on a little longer than I think it, carried me.
Well, and it was funny and awful at the same time, and it was so awkward with that kid. I mean, I actually thought the kid played it pretty well.
And I was going to say, the way that Negan started off and talking about the airplane, and until he said that, it had not occurred to me that kid had never and will probably never ride in an airplane his entire life. And it sort of hit home of like how long it's been, and how much was lost, and that we're not going to get it back anytime soon. And, and there's just all this, times change now where, I can legitimately tell, my younger coworkers that I was alive before Google, and so to be someone who has experienced everything that an adult has experienced, and then to come upon a kid who was born into the zombie apocalypse, and it's like, I mean, this kid's never been to school. This kid, this is nothing normal at all for this kid. But Negan created some little bit of normalcy in this kid and made him smile, and he was just broing out with him for a little while. And I don't know where this kid's dad went, if he died or if he left or, whatever. But seems like he's been with his mom for a while. And Negan has that weird connection to kids. Apparently when they're like in their early 20s, he'd make them psycho, but but yeah, it was a really nice scene, but I'm like, okay,
he has that
with the
weird,
nut tapping,
inappropriate connection with kids.
Yeah. He's the uncle that gives you your first sip of beer,
right?
Yeah. But what sort of airplanes is he sitting on with comfy seats?
He apparently only flew first class.
Even first class seats are not that snazzy anymore. So I am actually alive. I've been alive long enough to remember when airlines used to serve legit meals, even to the lowly peasants in economy. And I am not kidding you. I swear to God, that what they served us on one flight, it was supposed to be beef something, but it literally looks like they opened a can of the Alpo chunks and just poured it on a plate.
Okay, that's disgusting. It
looked like Alpo. I was just like, I was like 7, and I'm like, that's dog food. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm a kid. I have eaten dog food on a dare. That's dog food.
I am proud to say I have never eaten dog food.
Technically, it was a milk bone, which they're super dry. Like, yeah, they're not awful, but they're just not pleasant. It's like the dough you used to make in school that was just like sugar, flour, and water. That's pretty much a milk bone.
I guess when you're a dog, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So another thing that I wrote down, Yama had that flashback to her sister's death.
Yes, she did.
That was pretty intense.
Yeah. So, speaking of which, my understanding from what she was doing was she was poisoning the creek.
That was kind of the gist that I got, too.
But then she said she was damming the creek. So, which was it?
I don't know, but another place that my brain went with that whole plot line was, didn't we see a whole bunch of people get turned into walkers by blades that were contaminated with walker guts? And now
Yeah.
she's got this huge gash in her hand.
Yee,
That was a
that's right.
huge gash.
Yeah. And she didn't even like wave it around in the water before she put that bandage on it, you know? Not that it was help because she's gutting walkers in the water. Which I'm like, she has to be poisoning the creek because she had like 3 walkers there. 3 walkers a dam does not make, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was not going to be an effective dam. You needed more guardians to go and, you know, gut them at the creek. Plus, if she is trying to poison the creek, that water is not deep enough or fast moving enough to be water that you would just go drink out of. The stuff that Negan was drinking out of, yeah, you could probably drink out of that and be okay. But the stuff in the creek would be stuff that they would get and then they would take and boil, you know? They're not drinking straight out of that creek. So we all already have the zombie virus. So it's not like this is giving us the zombie virus.
Good point.
Plus, we're boiling it, so we're boiling any of the crap out of it. So, I don't think she's doing either one of the things we think she is effectively. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of not handled as well as it could have been either.
Yeah. But, Aaron made first contact.
I'm not sure how I feel about that.
You know, of all of the whisperers that he could have reached out to, you know, who he could have randomly come upon in the woods, he comes upon Gamma, who, yeah, she's kind of like third in command and got an in with the head, but I don't think she wants to be there anymore, you know? I think she's gonna lead a defection.
I did not get a strong feeling either way. I mean, I also feel like it's equally possible that she could infiltrate based on the conversation, granted the one-sided conversation that she had with Alpha.
Very true. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we shall see.
Another thing, and this kind of goes to the conversation between Sadiq and Dante. I think they're kind of setting us up for Rosita's death, too. Because they were talking about Rosita being sick.
And not wanting to tell Sadiq.
Right, and Dante was like, she'll be fine. Which is the kiss of death.
As famous last words.
Right.
That's going to devastate Eugene.
It'll be very interesting to see who ends up with the baby. I mean, we basically are going to have 3 kids who are not really spoken for. Judith, RJ, and Rosita's baby.
And then, of course, the Whisperer's baby that's being raised by Earl?
Yeah, I mean, we've heard nothing about that kid.
Yeah, Peggy Sue? Was that her? Brett Bears?
Tammy Rose.
Tammy Rose. God, where did that come from?
I don't know.
Died, so, you know, yeah, there's a kind of a lot of orphan kids running around.
Well, I don't really have anything else.
I don't either. The next episode looks really good. Did you watch any of the next time on?
So the thing that really excited me, of course, was that Eugene is potentially making contact via the radio.
Right. So did he boost his signal with the stuff that he found in the satellite? Are we finally going to get the satellite episode to pay off?
That is a good question. I think that's a good assumption.
Yeah. Because he was super excited about the stuff he got out of that satellite. Like, he is a game changer. So, that and Negan with the Whispers.
Again, having read the comic book, I'm going to be really interested to see if they mirror some of the stuff that happened in the comic. They're really heading in that direction.
They just get so off book sometimes that I can't trust it.
You haven't read that far. You don't know.
I've read the wiki that far.
Oh, that doesn't count. Which, by the way, I corrupted the new neighbor and showed him the very first episode of Walking Dead and then gave him the compendium that you got me so he could read. So I think we have a new convert.
What did he think of the show?
He thought it was great. He's going to continue.
I know, like it's like a cult. You just got to get your foot in the door, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, maybe he will catch up and listen to all of the seasons of Biters, or at least maybe just ours.
I would recommend that he go back and listen to Kirk and Jeff. I miss those days.
I do too.
Yeah.
I was just thinking we were talking about Kirk the other day. He's got some really good pieces up on his Twitter feed right now. So, yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, I have a sleeping mouse, but I think she needs to go out.
And then she needs to have her stitches taken out.
Her staples.
Staples.
Yes. Oh. I think we're going to do it in here so we don't have a big audience that's trying to get in the middle of it.
Well, I'm just going straight to bed because work is still exhausting.
I'm with you, sister. I am totally with you.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Have a good week. I think Di and I are going to start trying to get these out on Monday because Di's schedule's changed. So,
which is why we're a day late this week.
Yeah. We couldn't do it on Monday, and then we couldn't do it on Tuesday, so Wednesday.
I'm kind of trying to figure out how 410s fit in my life, but it's going to get there.
Yeah.
All right, but until then...
just remember...
take it one dead day at a time.
Have a good week, everybody.
Have a good week, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.